Welcome to today's Spirit Release Workshop. Now, most people, when they're talking about the spirit world, they think it's something distant, something far off, mysterious, and even dangerous, because there's a lot of narratives that support that the paranormal, the supernatural is dangerous. And we're going to find out it's really not. But the truth is, you're already in the spirit world, right here, right now. You are a spiritual and a physical being having both a physical and a spiritual experience. So the spirit world isn't out there. You are the veil. You are that crossing point. You are the point where you can tune in or tune out. Spirits are everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's day or night, whatever. In the spirit world, it's woven into our thoughts, our emotions, our energy body, and even into our problems. Think about those moments when, like the emotions that you're carrying, the thoughts that you're thinking, those urges that you can't explain. They're not entirely yours. And so the things that we're going to talk about are what are creating that, what creates those emotions, those thoughts, those feelings, those beliefs. And this isn't about superstition. This is about reclaiming your spiritual sovereignty. It's about learning how to recognize when something has taken up residence within your energy fields. And we're going to talk about how to clear it with skill, compassion, and power. We're going to talk about why spirits attach, what they need, what's going on with them, and how we unknowingly agree to carry them. I'm going to share with you some stories about that that might break your heart, but they're going to give you that strength. They're going to empower you. And so by the end of this presentation, you're not going to just understand what spirit release is. You're going to remember something older than that fear that you've been taught. You're going to wake up something deep within inside you that knows how to face the unseen and set yourself free. So let's dive in. In order to understand how this works, we need to talk a bit about where some of these spiritual beings come from. Most of them are not even human at all, but they're human created. You see, we live in what we call the physical world, third density, 3D. It's comprised of all the physical stuff. And for most people, that's all that exists. But where does all this come from? I want you to imagine source energy. Source energy is pure darkness, not evil, pure darkness. There's no light yet. No light yet. It's just the greater than infinite potential. It's the great nothingness that can become anything and everything. And from this source energy, it condenses into the brilliance of divine light, the divine realms, the gods, ascended beings that live in this really high state of being. Well, that energy also condenses into what we call the spirit world, spiritual energy, spiritual existence. And that light, that energy condenses then into electromagnetic radiation, the stuff we call visible light, radio waves, X rays, cosmic rays, all of that stuff. And that gets condensed even further into what we call matter and form, creating third density, the physical world. And I do want to differentiate this from densities, these layers of density. I want to differentiate that from dimensions. Dimensions are like moving back and forth, side to side, up and down. It's an XYZ graph where you can move in those three primary type directions. But when you want to cross over into the spirit world, when you're doing out of body travel or you're moving into a parallel universe, that sort of thing, you're moving, but you're not moving in those three axes of dimensions. You're moving on another dimensional axis. Dimensions refers to a movement where densities is that condensation of that source energy. And so we live in the third density, the physical world, matter and form. The spirit world is fifth density. It's like that fifth layer. And in between, this is what we really need to talk about, is the fourth density. Now, some of the words that have been associated with this is, of course, physical world. Then there's the etheric plane, the ethereal world. Then the astral world, which is like the spiritual world. We're going to talk about this ethereal plane, this fourth density. And I want you to think of fourth density as like a sandbox. It's like a playground for your energy where you're creating entities of all kinds. You're creating beings. You're creating energy fields and energy wells, reality bubbles. You are creating in this fourth density. And that fourth density influences the way we think, the way we feel, the way we believe, and ultimately the way we act. And we create a variety of beings in this density, this fourth density. Everything from thought forms and egregores, energy fields, reality bubbles. We even create gods and angels. Those are a type of egregore, a collectively created being that is subsisting off of our beliefs. And like I said, we are constantly creating in this fourth density. And if you don't know about the influence from this fourth density, which most people don't, you're going to blame all of your problems, all your thoughts, all your issues on physical stuff. It could be. You still want to look at the physical as a potential source of these challenges. But if you're having thoughts and emotions and actions that are not yours, that don't make any sense to you, they are probably a fourth density influence. Now, one of the biggest type of entities, most common, I should say, one of the most common type entities that we create in 4D are called thought forms. They're just little packages of energy. Energy from an emotion that we feel and create and express over and over and over. And we give that thought form a little bit of programming, such as scare me. And how this works is, let's talk about maybe grandma comes for a visit. Grandma died a few years ago, but she's coming just to say hi. She just wants to reconnect, share some love. But we've been told from the movies, from the TV shows, that the paranormal's scary. And there are even people out there who believe that that can't be grandma, that that's actually a demon coming to hurt you, coming to steal your soul, whatever. That's not really grandma. So it's creating this fear-based narrative. And if that's all we have an experience of, we're picking up on grandmas here, but we've convinced ourselves this is something scary, and we feel it over and over. We create a thought form that will scare us because that thought form is living off of our fear energy. It's not evil, it's not malevolent. I want you to think of this quote from Doctor Who, that evil depends on which side of the fork you're on. And when it comes to these thought forms, you're on the wrong side of the fork. They're feeding off of your fear energy. So when grandma comes around, wants to say hi, the thought form will pop up and scare you. So now you're producing fear energy. You can't think straight. You are full of fear. You don't know what's going on. What am I doing? And grandma's just trying to connect, trying to share some love with you. But you're blocking her because this thought form is feeding fear and completely disrupting the communication process. Another type of entity that we create in 4D are called egregores. Now, egregores are culturally created beings. When we name an entity, when we describe what it looks like, when we describe what its behaviors are, what it needs, what it wants, how it acts, how we interact with it, and how it interacts with us, on a collective level, we're going to create an egregore. And that egregore is going to do whatever it needs to do to generate our belief in it so that it sustains its existence. One of the most recent and, let's say, popular egregores out there is Annabelle the doll. Annabelle the doll. Now, the original story is a nurse, I believe it was, had this old Raggedy Ann doll, and all of a sudden she started picking up communication from a spirit, which is really a lost little girl. That little girl may have been named Annabelle, maybe just the doll, but this little girl was lost, a lost soul. She didn't know she died. She's looking for a mom. She's looking for help, and here's this nurse trying to help. So she's communicating, and this nurse doesn't know. She's not trained in paranormal stuff. She doesn't understand. So she thinks it's like a spirit attached to the doll or whatever. And then in come Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren, yes, they were paranormal investigators, but they were also demonologists. And every spirit they encountered, every spiritual encounter they encountered, to them it was a demon. So they scared the hell out of this nurse. They created this concept that Annabelle was a demon trying to steal souls, trying to cause all these problems. Meanwhile, there's this little girl lost, stuck, alone, scared, needing help. Meanwhile, even more meanwhile, the Warrens are publishing their paper. The movies of Annabelle come out. You see all the social media. You see all the news stories talking about Annabelle the doll, how evil she is, the things she's done. Well, right there, we have a name, we have a description, a depiction, we have her behaviors, we have everything created. And so we created collectively the egregore of Annabelle the doll. And now that she's out on tour, if anything negative happens, a car wreck, if there's a fire nearby, if somebody gets sick, or hopefully not, but if somebody dies, we're going to be blaming Annabelle the doll for that, further fueling the belief that Annabelle is a demon trying to hurt us. And so this demon, this egregor of Annabelle, will be generating fear. Will be generating beliefs. Will be doing things to get us to continue to believe that Annabelle is this evil thing because it sustains her existence. It sustains that process when really we are the creators of all of that experience. We're the ones doing it. And we also let go of control. We just say, there's nothing I can do about it. She's there. She's just going to be doing this to me, and there's nothing that I can do about it. Well, you can. There are so many things we can do about it. You are in charge of your energetic world. You are in charge of your energetic space. You have every right to take control of that. And I do want to let you know, I want to do a little plug here. I have a product of what I call a field guide. It's your field guide to subtle beings and astral entities. And this is a way that you can read about different kind of beings, different kinds of entities like thought forms and egregores. And we even go into how spirits and nature spirits work, different kinds of human beings that are out there. And so this is the field guide to subtle beings and astral entities. This is just a way for you to connect with that. I want to leave a link to this in the description so you can explore this ebook. Now, let's talk about lost souls. These are human beings. And in a previous live I've done on YouTube, I talked about helping spirits cross over. Now, human beings, when we die, the ideal thing is we cross over to the other side. We go through a portal, the tunnel of light, the light, whatever you want to call it. We cross over into this other world where we get healing, where we get the help that we need. We go through a nice little education process, but some souls don't want to do that. They've been taught that on the other side is punishment, there's hell, there's torment, there's judgment, and there's not. That's all BS. That's all fear-based narrative meant to shut us down and control us. But while those spirits are here roaming on Earth, let's say kind of like the upper level of 3D, because they haven't crossed into the 5D, they're stuck here in the 3D, the upper realms of the 3D, that is. And so they're stuck here. They're looking for something familiar. They're looking for something that's safe. They're looking for something that they can understand, that makes sense to them, and they can't find it. Nobody can hear them. Nobody can see them. Nobody's interacting with them. They're scared. They're confused. They need help. And sometimes they're searching for the same things they had in life. You know, maybe if it was a spirit of an alcoholic person, they could be out looking for a drink. And so they're going to hang around dive bars, places where there's that energy of alcoholism. And if somebody's in that dive bar drinking, maybe they're having a vulnerable moment, a hole in their energy fields, whatnot, that shade, that alcoholic spirit is going to go, ooh, look. And they're going to attach. And they're going to be like, hey, have another drink. Do another one. It's okay. And suddenly that person is drinking more. They're drinking things that they don't normally drink. And they don't understand why. It's because that lost soul has attached to them. It's influencing their urges, their behaviors, so that that spirit gets fed what it's looking for. Now, let me share a story about a man. Let's call him Greg, a client of mine. He works on the road. You know, he drives around in his truck around the various states, repairing equipment, selling equipment. That's his job, and he's frequently away from home, as you would expect. But at home, he has a wife and a couple of kids, and he loves his wife. They've gotten along together for years. Their relationship was beautiful. But now all of a sudden, every time they talk, every time they're together, Greg is starting a fight. Not his wife. He even admits to me, he consciously knows his wife is not doing anything to provoke him. His wife is not doing anything wrong, but he can't help himself. They're together. He starts calling her things he never ever would have said to her. He's acting aggressive. He never got physical with her, but he's just starting these fights, these arguments that to him make no sense. He's not feeling that way. So why is he acting that way? So he came to me. We worked together and we talked about what was going on. And sure enough, there was a spirit attached to him. This was a young man who died, who was pretty much an outcast from society. He was really weird, really different. And so throughout his lifetime, he was ridiculed. He was tormented and teased just because he was different, weird, unusual. And he ended up kind of hating love, hating relationship, hating people. He hated when he saw people that could get together and love each other because he was never given that opportunity. And when Greg went by, sure enough, Greg went to a dive bar. He admits to that. He drank a little heavily one night, and that opened him up. That made him vulnerable. And this spirit attached to him. And Greg had a beautiful, wonderful, loving relationship, and that spirit didn't like it. Didn't like that one bit. So that spirit was doing anything it could to influence Greg to destroy his marriage. And so we worked together. We helped to cross over that spirit. We found out what was going on with that spirit, how we could help it, crossed that spirit over. And then we did some shadow work to find out why that spirit was attached. And we did some of that inner healing with Greg. And when we were done, Greg was like, "Yeah, this is great. I'm feeling so much better. This is awesome." He left me a message the next day that he called his wife that night. And no fights, no arguments. Everything went beautiful. Heard a little bit back from him later, still going good. Now, I haven't heard from Greg since then, and I'm assuming everything with his relationship is just spot on because we fixed it that day with that spirit release work. So we got rid of that vengeful spirit that was trying to destroy his relationship. So, how do we know when we got an attachment? How do we know when we have this spiritual influence that we don't want? Well, you do. Okay. Everybody, no matter what, is prone to attachment, prone to influence. Working with the whisperers, my guides, over the years, they've shown me that roughly 90% of everything we think, all the thoughts going through our head, are not our own. They're influenced by the energy fields that we're in. They're influenced by the spirits that are around us. They're inspiration from our guides. And we don't know that. We just don't have that awareness. You can build that awareness, by the way. You can learn how to be aware of that influence so you can choose it. But most of the time, people don't know that. They just think it's their thoughts, their feelings, their beliefs, whatnot. And the way that you recognize that it's an attachment is you start to notice, are you having intrusive thoughts that don't make sense to you? Are you having emotions come up that there's no reason for it? Like, why am I suddenly feeling really anxious right now? Why am I feeling really like reserved and want to stay hidden and shrinking back? Why am I feeling like suddenly aggressive? These aren't me. This isn't how I feel. You also start to notice if you're doing behaviors that are uncharacteristic for you. You start to question, why would I do that? I was mindless. I was just like on autopilot acting that way. I don't even remember doing that. Things like that. Those are tend to be an indication that there's a spirit attached to you, influencing you. For example, another client, let's call him Jim. Jim is a type A personality. He was always go, 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 an entrepreneur. He had established his business and he was building it and he was just constantly pushing, always marketing, always calling his leads, always doing the work that he needed to do to maintain his business and grow his business. And he was a hard worker. And then one day, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to work today. And he just kind of didn't do anything, which is not like Greg, not like Jim, I'm sorry. Next day comes, didn't do anything either. Third day, Jim gets up on the computer, starts to try to do some work, and he's just not feeling it. In fact, he's kind of feeling repulsed by it. And he's like, nope, not today. And he just kind of sat and watched TV. And he's like, this isn't like me. I need to reach out. I need to get some help. So he reached out to me. We talked about what was going on, did some scans of his energy field. That's another way you can check is using your clairsentience to feel if there's an anomaly in your energy field. And sure enough, he had a big attachment. I don't know if it was like a thought form or what it was. I had never quite encountered something like this. It was big with a lot of little tentacles, little tendrils that had inserted itself throughout his energy fields, influencing him into complacency. And so we did some work. It was kind of challenging to pull this entity out. We had to pull it out. We had to pull all those little tentacles. We had to really kind of release it, pull it out. And then all of a sudden, Jim got hit with a flood of anxiety. He was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I haven't done anything for 3 days. What's going on? Oh my God. Oh. And he like felt so bad. He was so freaked out about not doing work for 3 days. He was worried that he was going to lose his business. So we had to follow up with some shadow work. We had to follow up with some deeper inner working to find out what was going on, where that anxiety was coming from. And we uncovered some beliefs. Beliefs like, I have to be working hard if I'm going to be valuable. I have to work hard if I want to make money. That if I ever have any downtime, I'm being lazy. I'm losing money. I've got to work, 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 work. And so he had this deep innate belief that if he wasn't working, he wasn't valuable, he wasn't promoting his business, he wasn't worthy. So he had to constantly work, which meant he never had a single bit of downtime. He never took a day off. He was never off the clock. He was constantly on go. Meanwhile, the body said, stop, man, I need a break. His emotional body, his inner world said, stop, please. Let's build some energy back up. Let's get some rest and recuperation, please. And Jim was not listening. He was push, 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 push. So an inner agreement happened. And I don't mean he logically, consciously said, yes, attach to me, build complacency in me, build this non movement within me. Yes. Emotionally, energetically, he was screaming out to stop. And he said to this attachment, like, yeah, shut me down. And so he shut down. And when we did the shadow work, when we let go of some of these beliefs that if he's not working, he's losing money, we let go of some of these beliefs that if he's not constantly hustling, that he's not worthy, that there's no value to him, and got him to take a day off. He built a schedule so that he has one day where he does nothing. And still, sometimes he'll feel that urge, like, oh my God, I gotta get going, I gotta get. And then he says, Ryan reminds himself, no, take a breath. Not today. And that attachment has not come back. In a weird sense, that attachment helped him learn the self care that he needed to take that downtime, to take that pause, so that he could rest and recuperate to build his energy so he can come back in with full strength to the work. And that's what he really needed was self care, self grace, downtime, which he was afraid of. But once he let himself have that, when he felt comfortable taking that downtime, he actually saw his profits go up. He saw his business build, and that attachment never came back. And that's why we got to talk about shadow work. Shadow work is an important part of spirit release work. Yes, you can go to a psychic, you can go to an energy healer. They can pull off attachments, they can break away tendrils. We can do spirit release work and let that spirit go into the afterlife. But we got to ask, why were they here in the first place? What agreement did I have? What did I need from that spirit? And that's an important question to ask yourself. When there's a spirit attached to you, ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? Because you are. You're getting something out of it. Just like Jim got that downtime that he needed so desperately. And you'll find that it's like a mutually agreed upon thing. It's a mutually beneficial connection in some way. It's detrimental to you, yes. But when you find out through shadow work, what you're doing is eradicating that energetic attachment point where those spirits attach, where those entities connect with you. You're breaking that off so that they can't reach into you anymore. They can't connect with you. They can't influence you. You know, you're kind of shifting that energy in a sense. I want you to think of this in a sense. Oh, a common thing that shows up with shadow work is somebody who is afraid of public speaking. I get it. Nobody really likes that public speaking. And let's say we have somebody that has to give a public presentation. They have to do some training at work. They've been working so hard in their career, building their career, but now they're deathly afraid of doing this training. They're deathly afraid of getting in front of this group of people and talking to them. Why? Well, back in elementary school, every time there was show and tell, they got laughed at, they got teased, they got ridiculed. So that shadow said, I'm going to keep myself safe. I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to do any public speaking any way whatsoever. I'm not going to make myself vulnerable to this. I'm not going to let people attack me. So I'm not going to put myself in that situation. And you know what? That shadow helped them out. That shadow kept them safe. It kept them from getting up and feeling like they were making a fool of themselves in front of a group of people. And it worked great until now. Their career depends on it. They have to give public presentation. Now, what are they going to do? They can't. They're frozen in fear. So we work with that shadow. We understand that that shadow is about protecting you, about helping you, about preserving your existence and helping you survive, but not thrive. And as we work with that shadow energy, we get to understand that. We're actually transmute that energy into a new way. Because what if the best way for this person to be protected was to study and to practice and train to be the best public speaker possible? It's still protection. They're protecting themselves by being the best public speaker they can be. So one side of the shadow says, nope, no public speaking whatsoever, shut down, don't do it, don't do it, do it. Nope. The other says, great. I'm going to be the best that I can be. I can do this. This is going to be awesome. And I'm protecting myself. It's still protection energy. It's just we gave that shadow a new form. We gave it a new sort of existence. We transmuted shadow energy. Now, if this person had an attachment that says, yep, shut down, I'm going to fuel your fear, I'm going to fuel your shutdown, we clear that attachment off. We do that shadow work. That shadow, that attachment wants to come back and says, oh, no, shut down, public speaking. He might feel that fear, just that little bit of fear at first, but he's like, no, I'm the best speaker I can be. I've been training. This is going to be great. That attachment now no longer has an attachment point. It can't influence, it can't make the fear, it can't shut the person down because they don't have that energy attachment. They don't have that agreement anymore. And now this person can go off and do great public presentation because they want to be the best public speaker possible. That's what shadow work is like. That's why we got to do shadow work. We can clear the entity away, but we got to find out why it was there in the first place, what we were getting from it, how it was benefiting us, and how we were benefiting it. Address that shadow, transmute that shadow energy into something powerful and beneficial, and that attachment can never, ever happen ever again. Now let's talk about, and let's do it a little bit here, a technique for clearing attachments in spirits. The first thing you want to do is set sacred space, set protective space. You can do this with candles and incense. You can do this with warding. You can do this by calling quarters, whatever you're familiar with, whatever you're comfortable with. You can also do this by connecting to sacred energy, feeling that sense of sacredness, bringing it into you, filling and surrounding you, all around you, clearing energies away. Then you call in guides, helpers, teachers, protectors, healers. You call these spirits in to help. And then you do a protocol to clear energy away, to clear attachments out, which we'll do. And for if there's spirits, if there's a spirit attached, you talk to them. You find out why they're here. You find out what they need, what's going on with them, how they can help better. And then you provide like a portal. You provide that tunnel, that light, so that they can get to the afterlife, so they can get the healing and the work that they need to do. Then you bump your energy back up. You fill the space. You can imagine, like if you're breaking off tendrils and thought forms and your connections to egregors, you're releasing people, there's kind of like an empty space inside. You refill that with that sacred energy. You bump it up. You clear it. You let it fill up. And then we do some shadow work. Why? Why was the spirit attached? Why were those attachments? Why were those entities here? What was going on? And then you continue to transmute that energy into a golden state. That's what I call the golden state. You go from shadow to golden state being. And that golden state energy fills up everything. You're transmuting that shadow energy. So that way, if those spirits try to come back, they can't. And then you live, breathe, you be in this new state of being, consciously, intentionally doing the things that will promote this golden state energy. And then you maintain your energy hygiene. You maintain your clearing work. You're bumping up your energy. You're feeling that golden state energy. You're calling in guides for help. You're doing your spiritual work so that you stay on this elevated plane of existence where they just can't attach to you. So let's do that here. Let's do a little bit of clearing right now, just so that you kind of get an understanding of what that feels like and what that's like. Now, to do this, we're going to do a little bit of a meditation. So I want you to settle in, get comfortable and relaxed, just breathing normally and naturally, and letting every breath you take and every moment passing bring you to a deeper state of relaxation, into a deeper place of your own mind. And I want you to remember what the sacred feels like. Like if you've been in a sacred place, you've had a sacred experience, feel that sacred feeling. That sacred feeling is energy. That's sacred energy. And breathe into that feeling. Breathe into that energy. Make it stronger. Twice as strong. Another deep breath. Even stronger now. Let that energy flow into you. Let it fill you. Let it surround you. Just breathe it into you. Feel it all around you. And now imagine below you a hole is opening and you're hovering safely above that hole. But this hole, this chasm, this abyss is like a vacuum. I want you to feel it sucking on your energy fields, pulling anything loose, freeing up any energy, just letting these things go. At the same time, imagine a wave of silvery white light like a screen coming down. As it flows through your head, it sifts, it shifts, it clears that energy away, pushing it into the hole below you, going down through your shoulders, your chest, through your abdomen, just shifting and clearing that energy. So it goes through the hips and pelvis, through your legs, just clearing that energy away, pushing it into the hole, going down past your knees, through your shins and calves, down through your ankles, through your feet. And that last little bits of energy just flow right into the hole, closing that hole up. And that's how you can clear energy patterns, not egregors, but attachments to egregors. You can clear tendrils and you can clear thought forms. But for spirits, let's have a conversation right now. Let's talk to the spirits that are attached to you. I'm talking now to the spirit attached to the person here listening. Do you remember that time when you were alive? Do you remember who you were, what your life was like, who was important to you, the things that you did? And do you remember that moment when you died? Remember where you were, what happened, and how confusing that was. Maybe you knew it was time to cross over, and maybe you resisted, maybe you didn't understand, but that's all okay. That's the moment you became a lost soul. That's the moment when you chose to remain here in the physical world. And I bet that was confusing and disorienting. Nobody could hear you, nobody could see you. You tried to reach out to loved ones, and it was like they were ignoring you. It's because they didn't know you existed. And I bet that was scary. I bet that was very upsetting. And so you were longing to find something that felt familiar, something that was comfortable, maybe even something that felt like home. And that's maybe where you found this person, because they reminded you of something that made sense, something that felt good, something that felt comfortable. And that's when you made a mistake and you joined with this person. You started to influence the way they think, the way they feel. You're influencing the way they behave. And that's harming them. It's disrupting their life. It's causing problems for them. And I know you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. And so I'm going to invite you now to look around. Do you notice loved ones here? There are teachers that seem familiar to you. They've been waiting for you. And take a look over your left shoulder. You see that light there? It's like that tunnel. There are more loved ones there. There's healing there. There's paradise. I promise you, there's no torment, there's no hell, and there's no judgment. You're just going to find acceptance and understanding, love, and healing. All of the things that you've been looking for and more are through that light. And I invite you now to leave this person, to separate from them, and to go into that light with your loved ones and with your teachers. And to the person listening here, the physical person, the living person, I want you to wish this spirit well as they depart. Have compassion and understanding for the challenges that they've been going through and wish them well as they go. Ah. And as they depart, feel that sense of relief, feel that disconnect, feel that you're gaining your sense of self back. And I want you to reconnect to that feeling of sacred energy. Feel that energy. Breathe into it now. Breathe into it. Let that energy flow into you like it's filling the spaces that you just emptied, the spots where things were attached, things that were cleared away. This new sacred energy is filling that spot. Solid, full, so nothing can reattach there. Feel that energy surrounding you like a bubble of protective light, so nothing can break through that. Knowing that you are safe, secure, you are cleansed and clear from these attachments. Now, in a moment, we're going to return to the physical world where we began this process. You'll remember everything you need to know. And I want you to once again feel the chair that you're sitting in. Feel yourself in the time and space of here and now. Take in that long, deep breath to come fully back into your body, bringing your awareness up into your head behind your eyes, moving your hands and feet, wiggling your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, taking a long, deep breath, open your eyes, fully awake, aware, and alert. That's a basic, quick clearing protocol that we just went through. Some of these things I want you to do on a regular basis. Feel that hole, feel that white light coming through you, clearing off things. I want you to feel that sacred energy flowing through you, filling and surrounding you, protecting you. If you do that on a daily basis, that's a great energetic hygiene routine that you can do to keep your energy levels up, to keep attachments away from you. And you can do this constantly and you'll notice a change. In fact, you'll start to notice a change in yourself starting today, over the next few days, even. You're going to think things differently. You're going to feel things differently. You're not going to act in unusual ways. That influence is gone. So you're going to notice an immediate change. But your next step is to reach out and do some shadow work. Find out why these things were there in the first place. Do that shadow work to transmute that shadow energy, clear out that energetic anchor point so that these things can't come back. And remember, we're all vulnerable. Every single one of us is vulnerable. We're open to this sort of connection. And so, doing our regular energy hygiene, doing this clearing with compassion and understanding will help you reclaim your sovereignty. It'll reclaim your life, your world, your emotions. Things will get better. And if you've noticed some of these changes, please reply back in the comments here. Let me know. Let other people know how this little meditation has affected you. Let me know how those changes have been working for you. I'm very curious and I want to know. Now, the next thing that we can talk about is I want to tell you my story. I had a recent encounter with this, and I'm emphasizing this because even though I do this work, even though this is a part of something I've helped clients for years doing, it still happens to me too. Everybody's vulnerable. I don't care if you're the Dalai Lama. I don't care if you're some higher level ascended person or if you're somebody brand new to spirituality. This happens to everybody. It's a natural part of the spiritual realms. So, what happened is I was feeling some feelings of like anxiety, some despair, some hopelessness feelings. I'm like, this isn't me. Where's this coming from? I tried to do some basic work. It wasn't working. I'm like, what is this? So I was going to close my eyes and go into a deep meditation and do some deep energy working. My guides were telling me, no, 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 no. Take a trip to Helheim. Helheim is the Norse underworld of the dead, and it's a powerful way to do some shadow work. It's where you can release the false facade, the false identity. You can find more about yourself. A lot of great wisdom and healing comes from this journey. And I was being called to take this journey down there. So I did. As I'm going through there, I'm trying to address this feeling of anxiety, the despair, the helplessness I was feeling. And as I'm there, I'm seeing visions of somebody else. I'm picking up on different thoughts. And I'm like, this is weird. I wasn't quite sure what was happening. But every stop along the way, every process I did in there, I started with my own, but then it was like this other thing kind of took over. These other visions, these other feelings, these other stories started taking over. And I'm like, what? So I finished the journey. I came back, reintegrated back to myself, and I did some exploration. I reached out, I did some checking in, and I found a woman attached to me. I connected with my guides, her guides, had a conversation with this woman. I learned some very interesting things. When she was born, she was supposed to be a twin, but her twin died in utero. And she always felt that something was missing in her life. Somebody was missing. And she had, like all kids do, we all do, had a connection to the supernatural. She had paranormal awareness going on. And she felt she was really connecting with her sister on the spiritual level. But it wasn't right. She was frustrated because she could never get her sister to manifest physically. She couldn't bring her sister into the physical world, so she still felt alone. She almost even felt abandoned, but she felt like this desperation that she had to help her sister. She felt that she needed to reach out and bring her sister into this world. And as she became a young woman, she got pregnant on purpose because she believed that she could give birth to her sister, that she would have a baby, her sister would come into that body, and they would finally be together. But unfortunately, the baby was stillborn. And that was heartbreaking to her. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't deal with the despair, the anguish of losing her sister twice. So she said, fine, if I can't have my sister in this world, I'll be with my sister in the next world. And she killed herself. Only she never crossed over. She thought she could bring her sister into this world. She thought that she could find her sister roaming here in the physical world. And she didn't. And she was searching and searching. And the reason why she came to me is because she knows I heal people on both sides of the veil. She knows I do this kind of work of calling for spirits, about helping spirits get the healing that they need. I help the people on this side. And she's great, great. I'm going to connect with this guy. We're going to call in my sister. We're going to bring the sister together. We're going to make all this sort of thing happen. She sort of had a weird motivation that if she could finally bring her sister back into this side of the world, that they could both occupy people's bodies' possession and live together as sisters in the physical world. And she thought I could be a conduit for that. And she was picking up on kind of my own sort of anxieties, my own sort of feelings going on. And she's like, yep, let's connect and let's make this happen. So we connected. Well, I talked with her. I brought in her guides. I connected with them, and she really didn't want to go. She really was determined to connect with her sister. She was really determined to really bring her sister into the physical world. That's just not going to happen. Her sister was still on the other side. Her sister was over there and waiting for her to come by and come through. Finally, we convinced the sister to go. We finally convinced her to go, to cross over to be with her sister on the other side. She finally left. We did that spirit release work. And I feel much better. The anxiety, the despair, the helplessness is gone. And what I want to emphasize here is every one of these cases, we have never once broken out the crucifix in the holy water and screaming, the power of Christ compels you back to hell, you demon. We never did any threats. We never did any sort of violence. This was all compassion and understanding because that spirit needs help. That spirit needs compassion, needs our understanding. And that's how we help them cross over. So, what I want you to do is from now on, do some sort of energetic hygiene. I want you to learn how to communicate with spirits. I want you to help to develop your paranormal abilities so that you can communicate, so that you can be aware of when something's going wrong, when something's just not right. These are skills that are going to help you out. It's going to improve every area of your life. Again, what you need to do is understand how the afterlife works, how to communicate with spirits, how to set up protective space around you, how to set protection so that you can't be harmed, and even how to build your awareness. when things aren't right, when things are right, so you can help shift some of these energies. And I do have something to help you with that because recognizing when you have attachments, learning how to clear energy, restoring your sovereignty, such important work. It's so important that you start learning how to do that. And it's just a beginning. The work that we've done today, did you feel a shift? Did you feel some sort of a stirring in you? Did you feel something resonate with you? Well, that means you're ready to go deeper. You're ready to master the unseen. And I want to share this with you. That's why I created the Paranormal Mastery Bundle. This isn't like a collection of classes and courses. This is a full system. You're going to learn how to navigate the spirit world. You're going to learn how to communicate with spirits. You're going to learn how to protect yourself and space around you from harmful influences. And you're going to deepen your intuitive gifts so you can understand what's really going on. And you're going to get the afterlife codex so you can learn what really happens after death. You can understand the landscape of the afterlife and how to assist spirits in transition so you can communicate with them with clarity and compassion. You're going to learn 6 essential practices to shield your energy, protect your home, maintain your sovereignty so you can protect yourself, your home, your loved ones. And you're going to build your paranormal awareness so you can discover how spirits, energies, and thought forms influence your daily life and how you can be aware of them and decode what they're doing by developing your clairsentience, your clairvoyance, your clairaudience. You're going to build that discernment. Now, altogether, those are almost $800 right now. But as a thank you for attending this workshop, and because I want you to walk away, not with just information, but I want you to feel fully empowered, you can get the whole Paranormal Mastery Bundle half off. Get all of that for less than $400. Because what you've experienced today, it's a spark. But that mastery requires commitment. And this bundle is going to guide you through that every step of the way. And if you're ready to start deepening your skills, if you're ready to walk with clarity through the unseen, and you want to reclaim your full spiritual authority, your sovereignty, I want you to join me in the Paranormal Mastery Bundle. Just follow the link in the description and take this path of mastery together. Hail.